Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? My name is Kyle, you know me as Dragonmar, and welcome to a new video. Today's video is on defending the first point of Temple of Anubis. We'll first start by looking at the point itself, discussing the strengths and weaknesses as a defender, and then we're going to go into some of the more important callouts, the choke points, team positioning, and team compositions. I'll be explaining all of this with some extremely detailed diagrams that I made. And on top of that, we're going to be looking at one of my GM placement games on Anubis, and we're going to discuss why we were able to hold the first point on defense, and why the enemy team couldn't break it, and potentially how you can replicate that. Hope you guys enjoy, and I hope you learned something new. Alright guys, starting things off, we're going to look at the first choke from the main platform on Temple of Anubis. Now, as you can see, I have two giant red squares. This is where the majority of people are going to come from, unless they can fly. Up top, I call it the no-fly zone. This is where you're going to see your more mobile heroes. This is where you're going to see a lot of Widowmakers, Hanzos, Diva, Winston, both can get up there very easily. And also your Pharahs, most likely, are going to be going up top there. Now, to the right, I call it Death Alley. Really, it's just the right side leading to big health. To the left, we obviously have small health, and to the bottom of the screen, main platform, which is really where a lot of your defenses are going to take place. And if you're looking at this, you probably know what I'm going to say. It is extremely easy to defend the main choke. There are two giant doorways, and setting up a shield here on the main platform is probably the best strategy. At the same time, you have to pay attention to the top. Letting a sniper get up there, especially if you for some reason don't have a shield, is a really big deal. So you got to watch out for that. Now, if they go to small health, you're probably in luck. It's pretty hard to do stuff over there, and they're most likely going to go all the way around, giving you plenty of time to position. If they go into Death Alley, this is a place where you're going to want to see something like a Junkrat or a Symmetra. If you have one of those, they are going to get absolutely roasted when going over there. Let's take a look over at what I call Death Alley, which is really just the right side by big health leading to the choke point. Now, as you can see, I put a line in there and labeled it line of sight. Very nice. And what I'm trying to point out here is that Junkrat or a Symmetra, I'm not judging, but you can stand back here and safely fire away freely towards that small choke point at the start of Death Alley. And that is why it is so hard to take this when there is a Junkrat or a Symmetra. Most likely the enemy team will just avoid it completely because the amount of spam damage coming through there is absurd. However, if they do make it through for whatever reason, it will lead to the big health on choke number 1 over here. So this is the first choke point of big health. You can defend inside on the health pack, which gives you a little bit of an advantage because of the health pack, or you can fall back onto the main platform onto choke number 2, which I think is a little bit more safe. One of the strengths of being on the first point on defense on Temple of Anubis is the ability to use spam damage to break down the enemy team at choke points. So let's take a quick look here at the big health main choke highlighted in the red square, and then we're obviously looking from the main platform. We're kind of on top of the bridge here. So that is a very small doorway, and now this is also one of the most common attacks you will see. This probably happens in like, I don't know, 60% of my games, maybe 70. People love going this way, especially when there's not a Junkrat, but you know, obviously there's been a lot of Junkrat recently. And one of the things you can do here on defense is just kind of set up your shield and hold right by those pillars, which actually act as another form of defense against the enemy team. But the only problem here is you are very vulnerable to the left side of you or to the main choke and to possibly flankers as well as snipers. Now let's take a look at what kind of defense you should be trying to set up in order to stop certain kinds of attacks. First, we'll talk about Death Alley, then we can talk about straight rushing through mid, and then we'll also talk about what to do if they do take a nice little detour over to small health and head up around you. So first things first, a lot of your attacks are going to come through Death Alley, and they're going to head over to the big health main choke. And you have two options here. You either fight them on the health pack and take it for yourself, or you let them have the health pack and take what I believe is a much better position right on the main platform. Now, if you are going to do this, I highly recommend an Orisa or a Ryan. All of this really depends on a shield tank. I think it's really important to have. you're probably going to want to follow that up with maybe a D.Va or a Zarya, depending. A Roadhog could also work. Maybe not a Winston, unless a sniper is giving you a lot of trouble. Obviously, Winston or D.Va is a good choice there, especially if they're by the no-fly zone up top above the main choke. So that would be defense 2. Now, defense 1 on the screen is your primary defense. That's where your shield's going to be set up in the beginning of the game, and that's where you're going to want to be if they start coming through main, because you'll always have time to react to the big health choke. And one of the things you're going to want, regardless, is a hit scan. You need a hit scan on this map. Now, I would suggest a Widowmaker, perhaps. I think Widowmaker is extremely good on this point. I'll talk about that a little more. And then maybe a Soldier or a McCree. If not, definitely get a Junkrat. You can also maybe take a Symmetra here, but we'll get into team comps a little bit later as well. So defense 1, really standard. That's where you're going to start things off, and you rotate to defense 2 if they come through the big health choke, or defense 3, which is on top of the bridge. You can substitute that for defense 1 if you want. Sometimes people go up there with a Torbjorn. I don't really like the bridge too much. And then obviously there's a small health choke and the rush under the bridge. If they go under the bridge, just turn around and blast them. Seriously. When teams do that, I've had my team try to do that, and it never works. You get absolutely destroyed before you get through the choke, just because it's so easy for them to pick you off. Now, if they go up the stairs to the left of the screen and all the way around you, that's also really easy. You simply reposition onto point. The final diagram that I want to show you guys is this nice little overview of pretty much the entire first point. I want to quickly take a look at the right side where it says Sniper Perch. That is where your Widowmakers and your Hanzos are going to be chilling at most of the time. It is extremely powerful. For instance, it gives you high ground advantage straight away. Second of all, look at that line of sight. I mean, you can see everything. And the big deal here is the color-coded no-fly zone. Your line of sight, your vision on that is unbelievable. A Widowmaker jumps up there, you have the drop on them, easy kill. A Pharah goes up there, they're dead. The only problem here is when your Widow is bad or worse than the enemy Widow. In that case, they really shouldn't be sniping, because it's a really big deal. If you do have a Widow, they have to be able to take advantage of such an overpowered position. Now, let's take a look at the second floor. As you guys know, I was talking about the small health detour. This is where they would most likely end up, which is on top of here. There's a big health in that room, and it is a little bit dangerous. What you're going to do, right under the Sniper Perch, I made a little half circle with an arrow. You are going to set up an Orisa or a Rein Shield right there that gives you control of that little building behind you with a small health in there. And it gives you a nice sort of angle to fight against the high ground of the enemy team. And it also makes sure they're not going to gain any free points. They're not going to get a tick on the capture point. And then also, let's take a quick look at the bridge choke. As I discussed earlier, if someone tries to push through the bridge choke, you get on the bridge, you obviously want to be shooting them when they're coming from small health, and then as they go behind you, there is quite a lot of open space. You just blast them there, and hopefully you can just simply outdamage them and just kill them right there. It's really not too hard. Team compositions on Temple of Anubis can vary. There's a lot of different ways to win, but I'm going to talk about my favorite kind of comps, and those include normally a Reinhardt or Orisa. I do not think there's a substitute for a shield on this map. I think it is just critical for your success. I think an off-tank, pretty much anything is good. I really do like Winston, but only really if there's a Widow that's giving you trouble. I think for the most part, the other tanks are going to provide just more utility overall. In terms of DPS, 100% need a hit scan or a Widow. You can have a Widow and another hit scan. That's perfectly fine. But I really do think you want a spam DPS. If you can, get a Junkrat, obviously. If you get 2 hit scan, that's fine. In that case, I would look for Symmetra as a support because of her spam from her charged up orbs. Or, you know, your other supports are generally going to be your Mercy and your Zenyatta. I really like Zenyatta for his Transcendence. I think it's one of the best ults in the game. And then Mercy, obviously, just because she has Resurrections. Now, an example comp would be an Orisa, a D.Va, which gives you really nice shield coverage, and then obviously a Matrix to follow that up if it goes down. You got a Junkrat for great spam. You have a Widowmaker who's going to be on that perch back there. And then a Mercy as well as a Symmetra in this case to give you some really nice spam along with the Junkrat down the choke. I think that is a really nice comp. Now, Team Comp 2, this would obviously substitute out the Symmetra. It's going to give you a Zenyatta instead. Instead of Orisa, we are going with a Reinhardt here. This is a little bit more of a mobile comp. And on top of that, we want to add a Zarya into this because a Zarya is going to give that Reinhardt a little bit more help. Make sure he doesn't go too deep and get destroyed. And also, I love Zarya. I love her ultimate. And you combo that up with this big damage from a Junkrat Soldier, you're looking really, really good. Finally, before we get into the example game, I want to talk about the key points and major takeaways. And first of all, thank you for getting this far in the video if you made it this far. Now, the main choke is your first priority, and you want to defend it at all costs. Never give it up for free. There's no point. Don't let them come in there untouched. You want to be shooting them the whole time and applying a lot of pressure. Keep the no-fly zone under your control at all times, whether you have your own sniper up there. Make sure it's clean. If not, make sure there's no snipers going up there. Make sure Pharah can't get over that ledge. Also, you want to deny access to the main platform. That is your platform. That is the main defense unless they go through the small health choke and up and around. You want to keep it clean. Don't let them take that for free. It's a really bad idea if you do. Now, you want to utilize your shields and reposition for these pushes. So as you saw, if they come to the right, get your shield over there as soon as you can. If they come to the left, reposition onto point if you have to. Now, you want to utilize spams in this map, particularly in Death Alley. Symmetra and Junkrat are unbeatable. Use the Sniper Perch for easy picks, especially if you have a good Widowmaker. And remember to fall back to the point itself to avoid that second story high ground advantage where they will jump on the point and overwhelm you. Okay, let's finally get into the long-awaited gameplay. We have me, Dragonmar, playing Orisa. On defense here, we have a Roadhog, Widowmaker, a Hanzo. I believe we also have a Symmetra and a Mercy. So we are running double sniper, and that is something that I would not recommend, but I really like this because it shows that it can actually work. So right there, you're seeing them get through into Death Alley, head over to Big Health. We reposition over here to the right. I put a shield down. I use my shift to give myself some more defense. We make sure our Mercy doesn't go down there in that choke. That would have been really bad. And then we start laying in the DPS. Now, we have some good spam here with the Hanzo using a scatter arrow, and we're able to clean it up with our Symmetra as well. You never, ever want to get stuck in there with a Symmetra. She is so deadly up close. Some people will write her off, but no way, dude. Getting into a small closed-off area with a Symmetra is a death sentence. Now, look at our Widowmaker up in the no-fly zone, taking advantage of that high ground, shooting straight down into their spawn, and getting constant picks. So here he gets pushed by a Lucio. That Lucio comes in way too deep. Absolutely no reason to do that. And our Widowmaker is still going off. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm just being an anchor. I'm staying back. I'm making sure we have a shield in a good position. And part of the reason is because you have to kind of know your role. Now, myself as an Orisa, I don't have a lot of mobility, so I have to do what I can to stay in position. Alright, now we're looking over to the right. Our Hanzo shoots one hell of an ult, gets absolutely no one. The Symmetra is back here with me, which I appreciate, and now Genji's coming in for an ult. He gets destroyed. I think one thing that's really nice to notice is where the Symmetra put her turrets. They're up around the main choke, which is where we're defending, and obviously the second they go through, they get absolutely destroyed. So, at this point, you're probably thinking, alright, well, what should the other team do differently? First of all, they need to find a counter to our snipers, so they're going to give Widow a shot, but their Widow just keeps getting killed. So that's really not working. So what I would do here is, if I was the enemy, is I would take some big tanks. I would probably take my Winston, I'd grab a Diva, and I would just start diving our snipers to make sure they cannot keep doing this. And also, the one thing you're noticing is what the lack of an offensive shield tank does. It's really, really debilitating. These guys cannot get through the choke because of how good our snipers are. Winston dives in with no help there. Really bad idea. Mercy gets caught behind, and Zarya shoots one of the worst grabs I've seen all year. So that takes us to the final minute 30 of the game. I reposition my shield, get it nice and full health. One of the most ridiculous parts of Orisa's kit is her shield and how quickly she can get it back and how much health it has. I absolutely love that. And we start losing a Hanzo, but I don't actually know if our Mercy reses him, but look at that. Roadhog pulls in the enemy Roadhog into 3 turrets as well as my fire, and he gets destroyed. Roadhog looks for another hook and misses. I'm trying to pull some people to hopefully help him hook, but regardless, he actually goes in and kills the Mercy. So once again, guys, this isn't so much what we are doing right, it's what the enemies are doing wrong. And they're not trying, they're not giving us a counter. They're not playing together. They're not getting a shield tank. They're not grouping up. They're letting a few of our people simply walk into them and kill them and then get out alive. They're not punishing our over aggressiveness. Hanzo dies again, no comment. So here's the final push. They started off right with a Lucio ult. Mercy goes to the right over there. If I was any kind of mobile tank, I would have dove her in a second. That was horrible positioning, and it really would have allowed for pretty much a free win. Widowmaker up top gets beat by our Widow with a shield. You want to know what beats a good Widow? A Widow with a shield every single time, and that wraps up the game. Well, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you enjoyed my Photoshop skills. I'm working on it. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, comment, and obviously subscribe for more. Have a great day, guys. Take it easy, and peace.